Good evening. It is Thursday, September 28th, 2023, and coming to you from Studio 1A at Lonely Tree Media Headquarters, this is the Best Lamb Sports Show. My 30-second thing seems like it goes really long.
It does seem like it takes a long time, yeah.
30 seconds is a long time when you're counting. So, just want everybody to be aware of that. So, welcome to the show. We are excited about tonight's show. We've got things to talk about. We got WNBA playoffs. We got Formula One in Japan. We've got the Pac-12 and college football. We've got the NFL and some stuff we're going to talk about. But we're going to start off with a trivia question because that's what we do. The Stave & Stone trivia question, which now is just a Chuck Norris thing. Apparently, I just have all these things up. Hold on.
It's just a Chuck Norris joke the whole time.
It's going to be. Stave & Stone, the Best Known Sports Show trivia question, brought to you by Stave & Stone Wine Estates in Hood River, is, are you ready?
Yep.
So, this is going to burn a little bit for you. The Dolphins scored 70 this weekend. What I want to know is, what's the record for NFL teams scoring points in a half? Because they scored 35 in each half of that game. And it wasn't a record. 70 points wasn't a record either, but
the record was 72.
Right. I think it's 73. The Bears.
Or 73. And they were in field goal range when they kneeled the ball.
They could have done it.
I think they should have just done it.
I mean, when you got a chance for a record, you got a chance for a record.
Right? I mean, the Broncos on yet another record.
I mean, as they always say, if you just stop them, right?
There's no such thing as bad publicity. They also say that.
That's true. Anyway, the question is, what is the record for first half, or not first half, but points in a half? Sorry, points in one half. That's the record. So there you go.
I like how you said it was not first half, so you could be a second half.
It could be second half, yeah. But anyway. So the question is points in a half, in any half. There you go. We'll tell you the answer at the end of the show because that's what we do. We have big breaking news. It's not breaking anymore. I mean, we're a little behind, but breaking news on the NBA front. In that, Damian Lillard is now a Milwaukee Buck. 3-team deal between the Phoenix Suns, the Portland Trailblazers, and Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Bucks, all they get out of it is Damian Lillard. They had to give up Grayson Allen and Drew Holiday. And the Suns get Grayson Allen, Keon Johnson, Nasir Little, and Yusuf Nurkic from Portland. And the Blazers get DeAndre Ayton from Phoenix and Toumani Camara. And then Drew Holiday. And then three picks in 28, 29, and 30.
Right.
And they have the right to swap a couple of those with Milwaukee if they're if they have a better pick than Portland. They were looking to trade. Apparently Miami was never a thing. I mean, that's what I'm reading is that that's where he wanted to go, but that Portland could never get a deal with Miami, and Miami was never really giving them anything to work with. And all along it was kind of heading towards a 3-team deal no matter what you do. 3 questions. I have 3 giant questions.
3 questions.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What does this do for Milwaukee?
It makes them better.
Okay.
Because you lose a defensive guard in Drew Holiday. All right. That's fine. Milwaukee's a pretty solid defensive team all the way around, and it wasn't solely based on him. So you don't lose like your main defensive piece and things like that, but you gain a ton of potential point scoring ability. This is ignoring the picks down the stretch because who knows what those look like? Who knows what those teams are going to be? But just in terms of like players, you get Dame, you lose Drew Holiday. You're not really super concerned with the loss of Grayson Allen. I don't think that's a major sticking point for you. You're not really concerned with the loss of Toumani Camara. I don't think, again, it doesn't move the needle much. Like they're potential players, but they're potential role players, but they're not massive ones. If you are the Bucks, you feel really good about this because you now have a lineup that's Dame, Middleton, and Giannis, and kind of sandwiched in between and around those guys, you have a whole bunch of role players who, over the past few years, have done really well.
Yeah.
So you're not mad about the position that you're put in by this. They still have Malik Beasley at shooting guard. They still have Pat Connaughton, who's a big shooter in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
They have all these other dudes that, like, I didn't know they had Goran Dragic on their team.
Yeah.
They have Jaw Crowder. They have
Crowder,
both Lopez's on their team.
And Lillard gets reunited with Myers Leonard.
Lillard, Myers Leonard, and Robin Lopez.
Sideshow Bob.
They have a lot of talent on this team, and they still have Bobby Portis, who is, to me, I think he's a little inconsistent, but he's a fan favorite, and he does get up for big games. So, there's a lot to like if you're Milwaukee. I think you feel pretty good about this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you lose Grayson Allen, who's a shooter. You lose Drew Holiday, who's a defensive player. I don't think you're going to miss him. I don't think you're going to miss either one of them. And with Brook Lopez, who's the starting center, and Chris Middleton, and Giannis all playing, and Damian Lillard, it almost doesn't matter who the fifth guy you throw out there is.
Right.
I mean, you pick one. It doesn't matter. But Connaughton, when you need him, Malik Beasley, it doesn't really make a difference. It's going to be – they're going to be – and immediately you could see it in the betting line that they were the odds-on favorite to win the championship this year. So, and I don't blame them. So, this is the first time Damian Lillard's going to have a chance to play with a superstar, with an actual – I mean, he's played with all-star guards. He's played with people that were good.
He's played with other all-stars, yeah. I mean, his closest was Aldridge.
LaMarcus Aldridge, and then he played with – and
right at the end.
McCollum is a really good guard, but he's never had a superstar to play with, and now he does.
Well, I know McCollum is, and I'm definitely a CJ fan. I've been very adamant about that. McCollum has always been better than he's been given credit for. Because he's Dame's right-hand man through all those years, no one ever wanted to really give CJ when things are going well, it was Dame. It was Dame doing it. Right. Or it was Dame in LA doing it. And then these were role players. And then when LA left, it was Dame's carrying this team. That was the constant narrative. Dame's carrying this team. CJ with his cool 23, 5, 5, and 5 every game for freaking a decade.
Right.
No one really whiffed at that too much. And then as soon as he left, they had problems. They immediately had problems. They immediately had a scoring deficit that they couldn't fill. And yes, CJ is not an all-world defender. Neither is Dame. Neither is Steph. Neither is – well, Chris Paul's actually not that bad. He gets a lot of steals. But most of your premier guards in the league are not premier defenders also. That just doesn't usually happen. Your only exception being – if you want to call Jimmy Butler a guard, you can. He's really like a small forward.
Here's something I just learned, and I'm just reading stats about the Milwaukee Bucks. Pat Connaughton, who used to be a Portland Trailblazer, by the way. Pat Connaughton shoots on average during the regular season. He is a 36% 3-point shooter for his career.
Solid,
which is solid. And in the postseason last year, he was 47.8%. Right?
Yowza.
He's 39. He shoots the ball at an elevated level in the postseason. All of his averages go up, with the exception of points per game. But his clutch shooting, he's a clutch shooter. That's the kind of guy you need. You got to have a guy like that you can bring in. You're behind, late in the game. You need threes. And you're going to need someone to take the heat off of Damian Lillard. So,
Well, and that was always the thing, right? Is that Dame and CJ were the scoring front for that team.
Yeah.
Like, period. So there was not really a lot of other people you really had to apply yourself to. I mean, are you concerned that Al-Farouq Aminu is going to blow you up? Are you concerned that, like those guys just aren't quite that way? Now, obviously, he's not only with Giannis, who's going to keep every center and power forward in the paint, near the paint, but he also plays with Chris Middleton, who can take threes, who can drive, who can assist. He can do all that stuff. And so now if you're Pat Connaughton, you're looking at this going, great. One more person for them not to focus me on me for. This is gonna be great.
You know,
So,
here's the second question:
yeah,
Is does this make Portland better? I mean, I know you're talking about a huge loss in Damian Lillard, but I mean that's been an issue going on. Is that you've had this one focus, and now teams are going to have to figure out who else they need to focus on. Shaden Sharp had a pretty good year last year. You're talking about Anthony Simons. You're talking about Scoot Henderson, right?
right,
And now with DeAndre Ayton, and they're probably going to trade Drew Holiday. They're going to dump that contract because he's probably due to get a renew, and it's going to
right.
be expensive. But you've got a young team that you can build on, and you have a center that actually can move and block shots. That would be good. Not that Nurkic wasn't a good center, serviceable when he was healthy, but was never healthy. So, what do you do with that? But anyway, does it make Portland better? Is the question.
Debatably, they instantly upgrade at center. All right, there's
Right,
not a lot of question about that. DeAndre Ayton is better than Yusuf Nurkic now, and that's because of consistency.
right.
Yusuf Nurkic had these 27, 28-point games, these big, massive triple doubles, and then the next game he'd go out and have 5 and 5 and be fouled out in the third quarter, and you're like, what the hell is happening here? So
Yeah,
DeAndre Ayton doesn't have those problems, right? DeAndre Ayton also played in more games. Losing Nasir Little isn't that big of an issue because Nasir Little's played in over 4 seasons with the Blazers, 48, 48, 42, and 54 games.
yeah.
So he's never around. His field goal percentage is high. He's a 45.1 career field goal percentage and 33.5 from three. So he's got talent, but the best ability is availability. So
Yeah.
losing Nasir doesn't kill you that much. Tamani Camara.
Kamara.
Gosh, why do I keep wanting to say Camara?
Well, it's
um,
one E away from that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a rookie.
He's a
Second
rookie.
round rookie pick.
Yep.
You don't know what you're gonna get. He came from a small school, so
Right.
smaller school.
Smaller.
TBD. You can put whatever stock into it you really, really, really want. But do they get better? It's really, really hard to
We won't
say
know.
that with
Okay.
your chest and full confidence because they have some good pieces still on their roster. They still have Kevin Knox on their roster, which I think is a solid role player that you have floating around there.
Right.
They're talking about bouncing Drew Holiday right off the bat. I don't love that. I feel like
You,
maybe hold on to him for a little bit. Like I
for
mean,
a
he's got a
See what
season.
happens. Yeah.
He's got one season
he
left
might.
and then a player option. So he could be here for 2 if they
Right.
don't just bounce him. He could be here for 2 1 year by his choice. But we also still have Matisse Thybulle, who is pretty
Right.
good defender. Right. We've got Jabari Walker, who is somebody I'm very excited about. There's just so much guys that you look at here and you go, man, there's a lot of young dudes on this squad. And young is great, but all of the best young players go to teams that have some sort of veterans on them, and that's where they make their mark. Very rarely do players make their way into the league and just become absolute dominant superstars with no vets around them.
Right.
It just doesn't happen that often, I mean, it does happen occasionally. There are like LeBron. I don't think LeBron's Cavs team that he first went to was particularly stacked with veterans, superstars, all stars, or whatever. So, but I would say if the Blazers, I'd say it moves the needle positively. Just I don't think it moves it that much. And the picks are so far down the road that you can't count on anybody on this roster being there. So those just might be kind of insurance things for later.
DeAndre Ayton, by the way, averages about 60 games per season with the Phoenix Suns. Yusuf Nurkic averaged 46 games a season with the Blazers. He had 2 seasons where he was over 70 games, 72 and 79. The rest of them were dismal, 50 something at best. He had 1 season where he played 8 games. So, I mean, availability, like you're saying, is a big deal. You're talking about 14 games, more available for DeAndre Ayton than Yusuf Nurkic. That makes him a better option. He's also, I don't know that he's a better shot blocker. Actually, Nurkic has a more better blocks per game than DeAndre Ayton, but I think DeAndre Ayton is more mobile, can move faster. But now, I mean, injuries are a thing, but he's younger. He's only played 5 seasons, so it'll be interesting to watch. He's a better scorer for sure. Not a lot, but I mean 2 or 3 points a game. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think Nurkic's career is 12, and and Aiton's is 16. So
It's just all about consistency.
right,
He seems like the more consistent week in week out player.
right, and I
Like
agree.
that's the problem with averages, right? If you go out and
Right,
like Nurk's games, for example, he has one season where I think he has 2 games.
8. It's 8.
Eight.
Yeah.
He has 8 games, and then he has one season where he has 72, and so
Mm-hmm.
that average is looking pretty
40.
grim, right?
It's
Yeah.
40. Yeah.
So that kind of
But he hasn't
averages are tough with that.
in the last 4 years. He hasn't played more than 56 games with the Blazers. So
Yeah.
that's a telling stat. Yeah, the big injury in 1920 when he played 8 games, and then he's rehabbed from it, but he still seems to be injured. He doesn't seem to be
I
able
don't
to
know why when you said the big injury in 1920, I just immediately thought about Nurkic in the 1920 the year, and I was like,
handlebar
what?
mustache, three-piece suit, right? Is that what you're thinking?
A peach, like what is it, like a peach box up on
Right?
the backboard that they're
Yeah,
dunking him into?
yeah.
Or-
I mean, I get it. I see what you're saying. Anyway, I like this move. You're gonna get rid of Lillard anyway, right? I like I like who you got. Let's see what you can do with it. And I agree. Keep Drew Holiday at least for a season. See what happens.
If you
Um,
do bounce Drew Holiday, you need to. The problem is he doesn't have a massive market for him because he's 33 years old. He's a
sure.
little older. He's the oldest player on this roster now, by the way. After him, there's 2 guys. There's a guy who's 27, 2 guys who are 26, and everyone else is 24 and under. So like there's some young dudes
Right.
on this roster, but he doesn't have a massive market for him. So I don't know what you're going to trade him for unless you package him with a pick or 2 picks and
Yeah.
try and go get someone. But
Keep
it
building.
sounds like you're committing to the young squad, and you're killing me here with Scoot, Sharp, and Simons all being like roughly the same 6'2", 6'3", 6'5". They're all around 200 pounds. Like I mean, I guess Simon's a little light at 181, but like you have a bunch of these guys who are all the same. We've got like, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guards on our roster, 7 guards on our roster. Good
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is, but we'll see.
Holiday is a 36% three-point shooter for his career. When he was with Milwaukee, he was closer to 40, which is big. When he was in New Orleans, he shot an average of about 34. But anyway, he averages about 16 points a game for his career. Over the last 3 seasons with Milwaukee, it's 18. So
Right.
he's a proven commodity. Yes, he's a little older, and yes, his contract is going to be unaffordable in a year. But I think you could still get something for him from someone else if that's the case. And if it's draft picks, so be it. But do what you got to do. I don't think they're planning on keeping him and making him an integral part of the team anyway. So
Doesn't sound like it. No.
if you're going to get rid of him, just get rid of him right off the bat. Why not? I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, third question.
Yep.
Are the Phoenix Suns the big loser in this trade? Because it seems like they didn't get anything in return for DeAndre Ayton. I mean, and Kamara. They're the people that they got in this trade are nobody. I mean, it's not. There's no names. I mean,
they shipped off.
They got rid of some
Ayton's cap.
Yeah, cap. Yeah, they got rid of cap space.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
Keon Johnson is better than like Tamani Kamara.
Yeah.
He's better than him. So that's an upgrade that you're kind of working on right there. Or that's something that you're kind of dealing with. You get Grayson Allen. He's a scorer. He can do things off the bench. He's a true deep bench guy. 8, 9, 10. But he's there. You're bringing in Yusuf Nurkic. There's your gamble. Gamble is you can keep him healthy and you can get his head in order. Because to me, I see him go off the rails mentally more games than I see him go off the rails, or than I see him get hurt. He just seems to lose his cool, lose his place. And Nasir Little's great if you can manage his injuries. And Nasir Little has a fantastic, career shooting percentage and things like that. So if you can manage the injuries to Nurkic and Little, and then develop Keon Johnson, Grayson Allen kind of is who he is at this point, it's not a bad deal. I wouldn't say they're the big loser. I'd say the Blazers, since you're going to bounce Drew and Kamara's not really a factor, really what you traded for was Ayton, a 2029 first rounder, and some swap rights in 8 and 30, 28 and 30, that seems light for Damian Lillard.
It does. Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, the word around the water cooler not that long ago was 3 first rounders. We want 3 first rounders for Dame. All right, and we got Ayton. All right, so there's 1 first rounder.
There's one. Yeah.
There's 1. Drew,
Well,
I don't think it was a first round pick.
Let me look. He was a first round pick, 17th by Philadelphia
What?
in 2009.
Okay,
So that's 2 first round picks.
there's 2 first round picks,
And then you got 3 picks that might pan out to be a first.
We have
round
one more guaranteed first rounder,
pick. Right.
and then, I mean,
So-
but when I say first rounder, gosh, that's such a weird.
I know,
say.
right?
First rounder in NFL is a lock. Past number 5 in the NBA.
Well, and it's fun.
usually kind of a question mark.
And I was thinking about that earlier. I was thinking about the NBA draft and I how different it is than all of the other sports because you have 2 rounds, right? And
2 rounds, yeah.
and yeah, you're drafting 30 guys or whatever, right? 60 guys total, whatever it is. And there's a lot of guys, 60 guys. There's a lot of guys not going to make a roster in just 2 rounds that are not going to be, on an NBA roster because NBA rosters don't turn over like NFL rosters do.
Right.
Yeah. So there's not, you're going to have all these players. Yeah. Okay. We got 30 something teams and we've got 15 players per team. Okay. That's a lot of players, but we're only replacing, 25 next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys who aren't going to make an NBA roster. And there are some that are going to make an NBA roster who aren't going to do anything. They're just nothing, And so you've got this 10 or 12 guys who are going to be something in the NBA every year.
Well, so here's a great example, right? You go on back to the 2019 draft, right? So it's 2020 NBA draft, right? You had Anthony Edwards at 1. That's a lot. That's a great pick, right? You had LaMelo Ball at 3.
What year is
That's 2020.
Okay.
I didn't want to go immediately to the past. I wanted to go like a couple years into the past, just because it's a year or two. Let's see what happens.
Right.
LaMelo Ball's at 3. And you can say whether or not you really love that pick or not, but he's pretty darn good. But he's having some issues lately, like in terms of injuries and things like that. So
sure.
But I'll still say that's a good pick. But James Wiseman, Patrick Williams, Isaac Okoro, Killian Hayes, Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith. These are other guys in the top 10, and I don't know that much about many of them,
right?
Because it's hard to stand out. Tyrese Halliburton was at 12,
right? I know him.
Yeah, that name sticks out. But
Tyrese Maxey
Peyton
at 21
was at 26. I know him because of the Ducks. But if I wasn't Desmond Bane at 30th, it's a crapshoot when you get past like the top 5, and even then. If you go back and look at all these drafts, like in 2019, there's still an R.J. Barrett and DeAndre Hunter in the top 5. Those aren't really worth the top 5 picks. There's still a Marvin Bagley in the top 5 of the year before. Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter. These are names, but
they are names.
But they're not. They're not players who are above and beyond.
Right.
There's still Markelle Fultz at number 1 back in 2017.
It was a big deal.
So yeah, when I think about the NBA draft, I say first rounder. But you don't want a first rounder. You want a top 5. You want
a lock, right?
Yeah, because outside of the top 5, top 10, it's really hard to gauge that.
Because I'm looking at 2019 now, right? Zion Williamson, John Morant. Those are the first 2, right?
Yep.
R.J. Barrett.
Yep.
And then you get to DeAndre Hunter, Darius Garland, Jarrett Culver,
Darius Garland's not bad.
He's not bad. Kobe White, Jackson Hayes, Rui Hachimura. Okay. Yeah. Cam Reddish, okay.
Actually, there's some decent ones in there.
Tyler
Jackson
Hero.
Hayes is pretty nice. Tyler Hero's overrated.
Yeah. I know, but he's fine, makes a living. Thibault was a 20.
He's on our team now.
Right. Nasir Little was in that group. Yeah. I mean, Kevin Porter Jr.
A first rounder just doesn't
not the
mean much. That's why the NBA does deal in like guaranteed, top 3 picks.
Right.
Like they don't do that in the NFL. You can't trade for a top 3. You can trade for a specific pick, but you can't trade for a guaranteed top 3.
Yeah.
But you can do that in the NBA. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. We're going to have to see more. You're going to see preseason basketball coming up. When does preseason basketball start, by the way?
Next week.
Does it really?
I'm pretty sure there is a Nuggets
October 5th.
Chicago game next week.
October 5th, Thursday, is Dallas, Minnesota. That's on NBA TV on Thursday at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. It's in Dubai.
Oh,
Abu
really?
Dhabi. No, it's in Abu Dhabi. Sorry.
Oh.
So
Global game. I get
global
it.
game, and then Saturday the 7th, there's a couple of matchups, and then the 8th is when you get a whole bunch of teams start playing. So yeah, preseason
Yeah.
basketball is right around the corner, which means NBA starts when? When is the actual NBA schedule?
When does the regular season start?
Yeah, what's the day? I'm looking here. Hold on. I'm trying
So
to.
hard. It's so hard to tell sometimes.
I know, right? Looks like it might be Tuesday, the 24th of October. No, it's not. Yeah, it might be.
I think you're right
Yeah,
because there's like
Tuesday.
this big old gap
Yep. 24th of
in
October.
there.
Yep.
Yep.
Blazers' first game is at the Clippers, Wednesday, October 25th, 7:30 p.m. So there you go.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to watch. I don't know what's going to happen this year. It's going to be an interesting year. First year without Damian Lillard is like the first year without Brandon Roy. It's like the first year without Clyde Drexler. You know what I mean? It's like the first year
We
without
gotta
any of
hope
those guys.
Scoot's the guy.
Scoot, I hope, right? If you're a Blazer
I'm
fan,
ready to boot Scoot and Boogie. So.
Scoot and Shaden are hopefully your guys. But anyway, we'll see.
Scoot, Shaden, and Simons.
Right? It's the
Oh
triple
my
S.
God. There's got to be a thing there.
Yeah, it's got to be a triple S going on. All right, so that's what happened in the NBA. That's the big news, anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
there's going to be more news later, but I mean, it's interesting. I don't know. We're going to find out more. Let's talk about Formula One.
Okay.
The Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka at the Suzuka, Suzuka circuit. Anyway, was less exciting than you wanted it to be. Max Verstappen with a 19-second win over Lando Norris. It was big. I mean, that's a big win. But he was back to. He looked back like he should after the Singapore thing because he's never done well there. But 19-second win gives Red Bull its second consecutive constructors championship. So the heat's off of Sergio Perez. He doesn't have to do anything now, right?
Right.
He doesn't have to score anything.
And he can't win.
He can't win the overall. Well, he still could win the overall title, but Max would have to not finish or finish out of the points every race from here on out.
Sergio's oh my gosh,
Right.
177 behind him,
Yeah, that is 6.
and the most you can get is 26 a race.
It's 6 full races, almost 7 full races, and there are about that many left. So yeah,
So
he's got
Max
a
just needs
chance.
to score points. Max
If
can
he
win
scores-
this weekend.
Yeah, if he scores any points in the next couple races, let's say he finishes 7th, 8th, whatever, he's gonna lock it up. So it's his. I mean, he's gonna win the next race probably.
Yeah,
So
he'll be fine.
which is 2 weeks, by the way. I thought they were racing this coming weekend, but apparently it's 2 weeks before they race in Qatar on the 8th, October 8th. So if you're a Formula One fan, take a deep breath and watch NFL football this weekend. because that's what you're going to get.
Sure.
Yeah, and then be ready for the swing because you're going to have a week off and then Qatar, and then a week off, 2 weeks off. No, it's 1 week. Sorry, 1 week off, and then the Austin, the United States Grand Prix, and then Mexico, right? So it's going to start hitting the Western, the time zones where you can
The
actually watch them.
appropriate time zones.
The
Yeah.
appropriate time zones. What did you think about the race? Did you watch it? Did you watch qualifying? I mean, I watch all that stuff. I record it. I don't
Yeah.
watch it live, but I record it and watch it. Did it ever seem to you like anything was going to be different than a Max Verstappen win? I mean, McLaren was good in, Piastri finished 3rd
Yeah.
and got a podium, which was amazing. I think Oscar Piastri is going to be a good driver.
He seems that way. Yeah.
The question is, can someone else snag him? Because unless McLaren makes some giant upgrades, they're going to be a perennial second or third until Red Bull loses their mojo.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I watched it. It was boring.
It
there
really
was there was a couple moments early, a couple moments in the middle where you're like, maybe something good. But as usual, it just gets shoved to the ground. You're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's cool. It's nice. It was nice seeing Piastri up there. Was it Alonso who was in 4th? And then Hamilton in 5th, I think.
It was Leclerc 4th, Hamilton,
Leclerc 4th,
Yep.
Hamilton 5th.
and then Sainz, Russell, Alonso.
It's nice to see that Leclerc's put together a string of good races.
Of decent races, yeah.
Because he had this he had this string in the middle there from Canada until Belgium, where he pulled 12 points, 18 points, but then 2 and 6, and then 19, and then it did not finish. And it's like, come on, now.
Right.
But yeah, he's put together 3, fourth place races in a row,
Right.
which is nice. Or yeah. Oh wait, I guess technically he only got fourth place in the last one in Singapore because of Russell.
He's and Leclerc is 15 points behind Carlos Sainz. He's in 6th place for the season. He's 15 points behind his teammate Carlos Sainz, who just won last week in Singapore.
Right. These gaps are funny because Leclerc's 15 points behind Sainz, who's 14 points behind Alonso, who's 16 points behind Hamilton. So they're all right in that same one big win, and you'll cover your gap.
One win, yeah. And Lando Norris, who's been hot. I mean, he's been a hot driver lately too. He's flying up too. He's in 7th. I think that what you've got is you've got a McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari tie for 2nd. I mean, I don't know how it's going to end up, but those 3 teams, and then Fernando Alonso is single-handedly keeping Aston Martin afloat because, let's be honest, Lance Stroll, he finished 10th in this race, but let's be honest, he's 10th overall.
He's got 47 points on the year.
He is a problem. I mean,
yeah.
his daddy's not going to kick him off the team, but he is a problem. He's weighing.
I think Fernando Alonso's going somewhere else next year.
I would, but where? That's the question. Where do you put him?
If you're Ferrari, you need to consider moving on from one of those 2.
But who?
And if you're Red Bull, you need to consider moving on from Sergio to one of the 2 Ferrari drivers.
Ooh.
Or sorry, because Sergio's good, but there is clearly growing discontent in that team.
Here's the question then.
Yeah.
If you're Red Bull, you're the principal, you're the owner, you're the guy, right? Making the decisions. And you decided that Sergio Perez is not the guy, although they've given him an extended contract.
Right.
So there's that. But let's just say you want to move on from Sergio Perez, and you had your pick, with the exception of Lewis Hamilton, who's probably not leaving Mercedes ever, right?
It's so funny because you start saying that. My first thought is, could I get Lewis and Max to get along?
No, you will not.
I don't think you'd try to.
I don't think you try to, and I don't think he would leave Mercedes. I think he's there until he retires. Of all the rest of the drivers, and I don't think they're tied to a team other than Lance Stroll because of his dad. Which driver would you go after? Is it Fernando Alonso? Is it Charles Leclerc?
It's a tie between Norris and Leclerc.
Is it? Lando Norris.
In my head, it's a tie between the two. Lando Norris has put on a show the back half of this season.
Do you think you could pull him out? Because you might be able to, because McLaren can make Piastri probably number 1.
Right, sure. Or McLaren can take Sergio.
Well, they could, yeah.
And see what they can do with that. I would say if you want that name, that friendship, that good get along between 2 guys, that's where you go Verstappen and either Leclerc or Norris, because those are all friends.
Or you take a shot on one of those guys that finishes Pierre Gasly, Alexander Albon.
Pierre Gasly has had his opportunities in good cars over the years to really prove it, and it's been just inconsistent.
I get it. Esteban Ocon. I mean, these are guys that are the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys.
Yeah, I'd say you want to live in these 4 to 10 range.
Do you know who I'd go get? Here's going to stir this up. So let's say we have Oscar Piastri. Let's say Lando Norris moves to Red Bull. Okay. We have Sergio Perez. They'll pull it out there. But you have Oscar Piastri, and you want to make him your number 1.
Yeah.
Which is great. I'll tell you who you go get. You go get Valtteri Bottas, who's a fantastic number 2. You put him in a McLaren car and not the crappy Alfa Romeo cars that have been terrible. And you see what he can do, because you've seen what he did in a Mercedes.
Right.
Yeah, you know he can drive, and you know he knows how to be a support driver. Yeah, that's just my thought.
That's not bad. I like it.
Yeah.
It is tough, man. Because I have a feeling that Sergio at some point is going to want to strike out on his own, a la Valtteri Bottas. He's going to be like, I'm tired of being in the shadow. Let me be me. And he's going to go, and it's not going to work out fantastic for him. Same way it's not working out fantastic for Valtteri.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of tough, to think about. So I think you try and take a winner, and I think with having a couple titles underneath your belt in the last few years, you don't accept anything less than a proven winner, and then you give them the keys to the best car ever made.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we all agree. What could Lewis do with Verstappen's car? What could Leclerc do with Verstappen's car? We all know there's some of this that's the driver, there's some of this that's the car. I don't know if it's 50-50 or not, but it seems like you got guys like Liam Lawson, you got guys like Valtteri Bottas. who were incredible in a Mercedes
Right.
and god awful in an Alfa Romeo, and it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah, it's just interesting. So yeah, I would say personally, I think Norris would be a good option.
yeah. I mean, it might be for sure. I don't know. It's hard to say at this point. We don't. I mean, not that anybody's going to change teams
Oh
or
yeah,
yeah. I mean, who knows?
I think a
But
lot of those guys are committed to the teams they're on. I think Norris stays with. I think the only person who's really in danger of leaving is Sergio Perez and probably Carlos Sainz, because I can see Sainz being frustrated with Ferrari for continuing to put Leclerc on a pedestal despite kind of outperforming him as a whole over the last 2 years.
gotcha.
So
All
resentment,
right. Yeah. Yeah. More to follow.
more to follow.
More to follow. I mean, it's all going to change. It changes every seems like every week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got more to come. WNBA playoffs. We'll talk about that real quick. The New York Liberty won Game 2 of their series with the Connecticut Sun after dropping Game 1. On Tuesday, they won 84-77. Um, they needed that. I mean, otherwise they're down 2 in a best of 5, right? And so now they're
Right.
going back to Connecticut for Game 3 on Friday, the 29th. Um, it I, Connecticut's good. It's a good basketball team. I think
Yeah.
the distance between Connecticut and New York and Las Vegas is not as much as you think it would be. You'd like to think those two teams are the best teams but Connecticut is definitely capable of beating both of those teams at any given day. So
Yeah.
there's that. Um, Liberty get 21 points from Sabrina Ionescu. They get 20 from uh, Benijah Laney, and then they get
Yeah.
19 points from Courtney Vandersloot. The three-headed monster does the job, but the starters played at least 37 minutes each in this game. There's only 12 minutes of bench time and 2 points. So if the starters didn't get it done, ain't nobody going to get it done. That being said, Connecticut Sun only played 2 bench players, but they played them 51 minutes. Their 2 bench players played a lot more than New York's did. So they were subbing in and out. But they got 30 points from Tiffany Hayes in a loss. So
Who was quite vocal.
quite vocal. I mean,
Did you watch it?
I did.
She's constantly yelling, "She can't guard me."
Yeah. Well, I mean, 30 points will prove that. But
And here's the thing I'll give her. That's 30 points with only 1 of 2 from the free throw line.
yeah, she didn't get fouled.
That's
apparently.
29 points in play.
But here's what I
That's
don't.
impressive.
Here's what I don't like. Here's the players that I like, and just as NBA, WNBA, this is college, whatever. The players I like are the players that give you points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, give you everything at once.
Stat stuffers.
Yeah, Tiffany Hayes, 30 points, sure, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2. She led the team in steals with 2, and 1
Yeah.
block. She had half the team's blocks, but she doesn't do much else. She scores, but she didn't do much else. You got to do some other things, otherwise your team loses still by 7 points.
There were two players on Liberty who had double doubles, and there was
Yeah.
not one on the.
Right.
Although Thomas was close at 10, 9, and 8.
Well, yeah, Stewart and Jones. Stewart and Jones are double machines anyway. Jonquil Jones and Brianna Stewart.
Yeah.
And so is Ionescu, who, I mean, but you watch her. She struggled a little. She had 4 turnovers, 4 fouls, but she had 5 assists, a steal, a block, only 2 rebounds, which is weird for her. She was only 1 of 6 from 3-point range. She's become a decoy.
And
yeah, but
still
still-
had a plus 16.
Still
Still
led-
had the highest
yeah.
plus minus of the day.
Still led the team in scoring. I mean, let's
She
be
did have
honest.
10 free throws.
And she was 10 of 10 from the free throw line. The team didn't miss a free throw. 16 of 16 from the free throw
Yeah.
line. You know, if you make all of your free throws, it's hard to lose.
Right.
Anyway, game 3 is coming
Friday.
on Friday at Connecticut. So at the Mohegan Sun Arena. Right? Everybody knows
that classic place.
the Mohegan Sun Arena, yeah, which is just outside of, what's the town that UConn is in? Stores, Connecticut.
Store.
Yeah,
Oh, I did not know that's what the name of the town was.
Stores. And the Aces, so the Aces took a 2-0 lead over the Wings, also with a 91-84 win. Asia Wilson scored 30 points, had 11 rebounds. she's really, really good and really, really pissed off that she didn't win the MVP. She was also 10 of 10 from the free throw line, by the way. So,
Yeah,
so there's that.
she's gonna absolutely bully. She's
So
gonna bully them if they play each other.
the Aces are going to have to do what you do with LeBron or Michael Jordan. Let them score. Let them do their thing. But you got to shut everybody else down. If you can shut everybody else down, Kelsey Plum being one of those people. If you
Right.
can shut them out, if you can shut the rest of the team down, and Chelsea Gray, if you can shut the rest of the team down and let Asia Wilson have her points, make her go 1-on-1 and do her thing, you got a good chance of winning. She can't score 100, right? She can only score what she can score. I mean, on a great night, she's going to score 40, right?
Right.
If the rest of the team is held to 10 at best, right? You're talking about 80 points. You have a good chance. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my personal philosophy. When you got to score, let them score. I mean, you don't not let them score, but
You try and slow them
yeah,
down.
you're trying.
But don't foul.
Foul them when you need to. Foul them. I am a firm believer of when you have a great scorer, you put in a backup and you commit to the 5 or 6 fouls, whatever it is. You commit to the fouls, and I'm not saying hard foul or intentionally foul. Well, I am saying hard foul. Now, I'm not saying intentionally foul, but I am saying if you get beat, foul them. Make them go shoot 2 shots as opposed to a layup. But if you do,
Right.
make sure you don't let them get an and one. But yes, that's my personal belief is that you make them pay early in the game, make it physical, make them hurt for the second half, and every time they shoot, they'll remember that I got fouled last time.
I don't know how it works in the WNBA as much, but I know that in the NBA, they've kind of started cracking down on stopping follow throughs. So if let's say you're guarding LeBron and starts to get by you, and you're
Yeah.
like, crap, he's gonna have a wide open lane, and
Yeah.
you grab him and like wrap him up,
Right?
you're probably gonna get a flagrant.
Yeah.
Like that's what they've been doing lately is they've been preventing people from stopping the continuation, which is such a bummer because it just makes it impossible to stop. Like, oh, if you got by me, I guess that's it.
Right.
There's no other recourse to this moment. So that's kind of unfortunate, but I don't know how they do it in the WNBA, but that's something to consider if they do it that way.
Sure. Let's talk about college football because we can. We got to move on. Oregon, the number 10 Oregon Ducks beat the number 19 Colorado Buffaloes 42-6, and it was 42-0. Colorado scored in the fourth quarter late. This was a dominant effort on both sides of the football by the Oregon Ducks. There is no other way to put it. Colorado had 25 rushes for 40 yards, 1.6 yards a carry. They threw for 159 yards. Shedeur Sanders, 23 of 33. No interceptions, but 159 yards, 1 touchdown. His yards per attempt, 4.8. His QBR, 28.2. Oregon was all over him. And this was something you saw coming because Colorado's offensive line was porous, let's call it. Not great.
Even going into today, Shedeur Sanders is the most sacked quarterback in college football.
Going into Saturday, yeah. For sure.
Going into Saturday.
Yeah. But the Ducks just came out and blew the doors off. It was more than you expected it to be. You kind of expected it to be a puncher's game, back and forth maybe, but Oregon finds a way to score an extra touchdown here or there. You know what I mean? You did not expect it to be 35-0 Oregon at the half. I did not expect that. Oh, not a chance.
Yeah, I know that Oregon tends to struggle with games of high hype.
Yeah, for sure.
Historically, that game is that game that we lose, and I don't know why that is, but it's just always been. And this game had all of the hype coming into it.
Yeah, for sure. It was loaded with, it was dripping, let's say, with storylines and things, right? And this was Colorado's first test. Yeah, they're missing Travis Hunter. Okay, but
I would not have helped. Not with the way this team played.
It wouldn't. It might have helped a little in the end in terms of total score offensively.
I think it would have helped defensively more than offensively because Oregon's defense played that scheme masterfully. I think defensively having a Travis Hunter keeping up with a Franklin is a little better of a deal.
Oregon ran for 240 yards, 6.3 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. Bo Nix throws for 276, 28 of 33, 276, 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception. It was a dominant. Troy Franklin was amazing. 8 catches, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. If he's not an All-American at wide receiver, I don't know what is.
Yeah, he found every way to get open, didn't he?
Right? Yeah. Defensively, right? Oregon sacked Colorado 7 times. That's amazing. I mean, but yeah, we knew the sacks were coming, because that's been the
Yeah, but you don't.
not
7 is a
7.
lot.
Yeah, you think 4 or 5, you're going, that's a good day,
Right.
right? 7 is a lot. Yeah, you're right. But anyway, it was a great defensive effort. It was a great offensive effort. It's hopefully you won't have a letdown against Stanford this week, because that's a possibility, right? I mean, it's a sandwich game. Stanford's in between because if you're looking ahead to Washington, who's next week, woo.
Well, we have a bye, and then Washington.
Oh, right. But
So
yeah,
there's a reset week in there. I think the thing that benefits you though is when trap games, especially trap games post a big game, are always tough because you expend all of your energy, all of your effort, all of your, emotion to finish off one game, and then the next game you get caught taking a sigh. Well, for a quarter already, Bo Nix and those guys have been breathing easy.
yeah,
So they all came out of the game in the third, early fourth, something like that. So I feel like there's already been plenty of time, even on Saturday, to go. All right, we got this. We're good. Let's start working on getting healthy, working on focusing on the next one. I don't think it's this kind of. I don't think this game would be a trap game. I would have said last week at Hawaii. Where last week Hawaii would have been more of a trap game because those Mountain West type teams or whatever they are, they're weird sometimes, man. Sometimes they have an offense and you didn't know it.
yeah,
But I mean, even Hawaii came to Oregon and put up a better show than Colorado did.
yeah, they did.
So
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Let's talk about the rest of the Pac-12. USC beat Arizona State 42-28 on the road and dropped a couple places in the poll because of it. I mean, they did not look dominant
right.
like they had. I mean, Caleb Williams was still fantastic. Don't get out of hand here. It's 322 yards, 3 touchdowns. You know, but they ran for 213 yards. They just seem to let Arizona State stay in the football game. The defense is where you go, what is going on, right? USC had 8 sacks. 8 sacks of
Yeah.
Arizona State, and you still gave up 28 points, and they were still in the football game in the fourth quarter. That's the scary part. I think if you're a USC fan, is that when Arizona State scored with 8:05 to go, it was a 7-point game, right? So you're still going, wait a minute, we should be dominating this game. We got 8 sacks, we have 200 and something yards rushing, and Caleb Williams hasn't made a mistake, and right, all this stuff is going good. Your defense sucks, by the way. I'm just letting you know. You gave 28 points to Arizona State, who's 1-3 in the Pac-12. Your defense is not very good. If you don't shore that up, pretty soon someone's going to exploit it with a good offense. Washington, Oregon, somebody, right?
Somebody will do
Somebody
it.
will do it, yeah, because there's a lot of good offenses in the Pac-12 still. Heck, Oregon State can do it if they get the running game going. Good Lord. I don't know. Washington State's still that team. I tell you every week. I'm scared of Washington State. I would not be surprised if Washington State found a way to win the Pac-12. Just saying that, throwing that out there.
It would not be that surprising.
No,
I completely agree. I think that they're a little light.
Yeah.
On they don't rush the ball super well.
Right.
Their quarterback can run, and they've played some decent teams so far. I don't know. I'm having a feeling that as soon as Utah gets Cam Rising back, and
they're going to be tough.
And I think they're going to still be the most difficult team.
They are, for sure. You're not wrong. Washington beat Cal 59-32. Scored 45 points in the first half. They're 4-0. They looked every bit the part of a world beater, but Cal, again, is Cal. Michael Penix threw an interception. There's that. 304 yards, 4 touchdowns, interception. This is a team that throws a football. I mean, this is a Washington team. They ran for 140 yards, which was big for them, right? That was a lot. But they threw for almost 390. Dylan Morris came in as backup, threw for another 85 yards. They're a really good throwing team. You have to eliminate. And they had 2 guys catch 120 yards or more and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
They've got receivers. They've got a quarterback. This is a team that's dangerous. I will say this. Washington didn't record a sack.
Right.
So again, this is one of those teams where I feel like you're going to beat them. You have to offensively beat them. You have to control the ball, right? Control the time.
Slow down the game.
Yep, slow down the game. Run the football. This is something Oregon's really good at, by the way.
I mean,
control the.
Cal spotted them 14 to start the game.
Yeah, well, Cal gave up what an interception return for a touchdown and a punt return
and
for
a
a touchdown.
punt return for a touchdown on their first 2 drives, and then proceeded to score a touchdown. And on the next drive, they threw a pick, and then they punted, and then they scored a touchdown, and then they threw a pick. So they had 3 turnovers in the first half.
This is what I'm saying. Cal is not a great football team. They scored 32 points on your defense. I mean, yeah, 13 more in the fourth quarter, but
I agree. I agree with that for the most part. What I'm saying is, Cal did all of their work on offense. Right. All 32 points came on offense, right? Washington capitalized off of a lot of defensive pluses, defense and special teams pluses.
Right.
14 points of that comes from your pick return and your kickoff return and your punt return. And then you have 2 interceptions that give you short fields.
Right.
So it's like, come on now. Like they were able to they scored a lot of points in the first half. They scored 45 in the first half, right?
Yeah.
But 14 of that was off of this, and then another 14 of that was off of turnovers in the short field. So, I mean, that's not saying you're not capitalizing on what's being presented to you, but very rarely are you going to be presented that many opportunities. And defensively, when you didn't get a pick or a turnover, you gave up 32 points.
You did. There's a lot. I would still tell you that if I had a first place vote in a poll, I might vote for Washington.
I would vote for Michael Penix. I wouldn't vote for Washington as a whole.
I mean,
just because I feel like if Bo Nix went out, Oregon still has a chance to be successful.
True.
I do not believe that about Washington. I do not believe that about USC. I actually believe it about Utah because they've proven it.
Yeah, they won. They're 4-0 with a backup.
Yeah, I even believe it about Oregon State that they would be pretty talented without it. But Michael Penix is this Washington team. Without him, I don't think they're. I don't think they even have like a 500 team.
Maybe.
But I mean, that's part of the game. You have the quarterback you have, and he's talented. But I would still be voting USC as the most complete team right now.
Utah without Cam Rising, without their number 1 quarterback, is averaging 9.5 points against per game. Less than 10 points they're giving up. Their defense, without an offense that can really sustain drives and keep people off the field, right, is still not giving up points. Their defense is really, really – imagine what happens when they get a quarterback back. They're going to be hard to beat. That is a really, really good football team. I was kind of thinking that by this point in time they'd be 2-2 and there would be issues, right? No.
Right.
4-0. And I don't know if he's coming back this week.
I mean –
right? I wouldn't.
He's not
rush him. Yeah, I wouldn't rush him.
What's the point?
Right. I wouldn't rush him because you're not losing anything. But they do play Oregon State at Oregon State in Corvallis. It's a good football team that has a good rushing game. I don't know about the passing yet. Martinez, 57 carries, 432 yards, and a touchdown. That's an average about 7 point something yards per carry. Why would you do anything else? Is my question. Just keep running it and see
Every
what
time
happens.
I talk to Oregon State fans, they say the same thing. What are we doing here? Like, why did we even put this in the air?
Yeah, Bucky Irving, by the way, for Oregon, 37 carries, 305 yards. That's almost 10. I mean, it's 8 point something per carry. That's ridiculous, right? Oregon has some weapons too. So I mean, this is going to be a great Pac-12 race down to the finish. You're going to get those big heavyweight games: Oregon, USC. Utah, USC, Utah, Oregon. You're going to get all those games down the stretch.
It's all coming later.
Yeah, it's coming. And it's going to be exciting. Looking forward to that, by the way. Also in the Pac-12 that happened this weekend, Utah, in dominant fashion, beat UCLA. And when I say dominant fashion, it was 14-7. It was the fewest points scored by Utah in a win, right, since Kyle Whittingham has been the head coach. But they gave up 7. They gave up 7 late. They didn't. I mean, it was in the fourth quarter before UCLA scored with 3:39 left to go in the game. It was a dominant win by their defense. Utah looks like the best defense in the Pac-12 without a doubt. I mean, yeah. So the question is, can the Utah defense beat a Washington offense, or a Oregon offense, or a USC offense? That's the question.
The thing is, like, I thought UCLA had a pretty stout offense, but I've also seen UCLA quite a few times in the past few years put up dud offensive games.
Right.
So it's not too crazy. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the key, right? We'll find out. We'll
Right.
find out soon whether or not he's capable of doing it or not.
Well,
So
both offenses for Utah and UCLA had one drive that scored. One 9-play drive that scored points. The other touchdown was in the first quarter on an interception return for a touchdown. So by Utah, that's the difference in the game. And their defense is capable of doing that to you. It's just really really good. That is a really really good team. And so what did all that mean, by the way? Well, let's talk about one more game, and that's Washington State beat Oregon State in Pullman. In Washington State looked like they were going to pull away and put this game away, and then they didn't. You know what I mean? They let Oregon State kind of hang around. I thought Oregon State scored the last two touchdowns. Yeah, the last one was with a minute 12 to go, but still, you had a chance at that point at making it 38-35. Washington State looks good offensively. Their defense is going to be one of those things. It's suspect to, you give up 35 points in the win, 21 of them in the fourth quarter. So I don't know how great Washington State is, but they scare me offensively. So good enough where they make big plays, and I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like Cameron Ward. He bothers me.
he's stressful.
He's stressful. He's a great player. He just stresses me because I think he's gonna do something every play. He's gonna scramble and throw on the run, and that Oregon has never been very good at stopping that.
No one is.
No way. Yeah, no one is.
The air raid is the air raid for a reason. No one's good at stopping the air raid.
True. Yeah. It was 35-14 Washington State at the end of the third quarter, and they gave 21 points in the fourth, and managed to escape with a win. But it was not as easy as you'd like it to have been because Washington State turned the ball over twice. They did have 500 yards total offense, right? But Oregon State controlled the time of possession. Oregon State's a good football team. They're maybe not top 10. Maybe they were a little overrated. They're still a good football team. This is a team that's capable of beating anybody else in the Pac-12 on any given day, and they're going to pull an upset of somebody. I just don't know who it's going to be and when it's going to happen. Your impression of Oregon State in this game?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were pretty good.
They're pretty good.
But DJU had his second troublesome game in a row.
He did.
All right, against a team that isn't exactly known for being world beaters defensively. He threw for less than 50%. He has another pick to add on to everything. Over the last two games, he's gotten progressively worse.
Okay.
That's very concerning because while running the ball is great, 242 yards is fantastic, you have to put the ball in the air sometimes, and you have to be wildly efficient with it. You see guys all the time who don't do a ton, but they do enough to win. Like in terms of like they throw the ball efficiently, even if it is only 15 times or something like that.
Right.
But you've got him out here throwing 34 passes. He threw 34 passes in this game. He only carried the ball 39 times. Like you need to run the ball more in this. So maybe Jonathan Smith needs to say, hey, I got to rein this back in because DJU, in my opinion, is reeling a little bit. Like let's simplify for him and lean on the run more.
Yeah.
Because that's the only problem I see. Their defense is solid. This is a tough team to play, is what it is, and it's on the road. So I'm not faulting their defense for giving up 38 to the air raid offense on the road. But they've got to work out some things offensively, some scheme things.
Sure. Other college football scores. Just whoa, what's going on? It's going fast. Texas 38-6 over Baylor. Texas is now 4-0. That happened in Austin. LSU beat Arkansas in a game that was closer than you think it should have been, right? Especially at home, 34-31. Yeah. I said watch out for Arkansas this year. They're clearly not going to be great, but they're good enough to beat you if you're not careful, right?
Right.
And LSU, I still think is a little overrated at 12, by the way. Just saying. Maybe not.
I agree.
Yeah, you had Alabama beating Ole Miss 24-10 in a game that was 7-6 Ole Miss at the half. It wasn't a dominant Alabama effort. It ended up being a 2-touchdown win, but it was not a great win. Alabama still doesn't look like that team to
No.
me. But Ole Miss doesn't look like that team either. So there's that. You get what you get.
So here's a question for you. When you
Yeah,
look across these scores
yeah,
and I'm seeing more parity. I'm seeing more teams that 5 years ago didn't have a chance.
right,
Arkansas was a nobody. Ole Miss was getting stomped in this game 40-0. Oregon State isn't competing, right?
right.
Cincinnati isn't competing. Is this a result of NIL? People going where they want and being able to make
It
money wherever they go? Is it kind of marginalizing, like, okay, well, now Alabama doesn't have the best people ever because all those Florida guys who couldn't make any money in Florida and had to go to Alabama to do it can stay in Florida and make money?
it's definitely a part of it. Yeah,
I think
for
it's
sure.
definitely changing the landscape a little bit.
Yeah. And you had Florida State winning at Clemson 31-24 in overtime. That's the number 4 team in the country. Struggled 2 games in a row on the road, and that's a
Yeah.
Clemson team that's now 2-2 and is definitely out of the national championship hunt, out of the conference championship hunt at 0-2.
Yeah, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way back unless everybody else starts losing.
You'd have to start. Yeah, there has to be some cannibalization in there.
Right.
Duke has to take care of
Oh yeah,
Florida State. I mean, Florida and Miami can help you out down at the end of the schedule there.
right. And then you had the Ohio State Notre Dame game, 17-14. Ohio State scoring with 1 second left in the game, just stunning Notre Dame at home. Um, I don't think. Okay, traditionally I think Notre Dame is overrated. I think they're overrated this year. I think
Yeah.
that was a thing. But Ohio State may also be overrated. I don't think Ohio State is very, very good. I think they're
All
good.
of the real big schools, with the exception of Georgia, look like they're all
That struggle a
kind
little
of
bit.
struggling a little bit.
They
Yeah.
struggle some a little bit. And that leads to some other teams we'll talk about in a minute. Penn State being one of those. Penn State beat Iowa 31-0. That's a big win. It's a top 25 team in Iowa. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Iowa has trouble scoring traditionally, but they hadn't been this
Not
year.
this year.
Yeah, but Penn State just manhandled them, and that's an amazing win for Penn State in Happy Valley. There was that, and then you had Georgia, who struggled with UAB. It was 21-14 in the second quarter at some point. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was 28-14 at the half, and then it was all Georgia pretty much second half. But it was not a dominant. It was not the kind of win you expect them to beat UAB by, right? If this is the number 1 team and clear cut the best team in the country, you won by 4 touchdowns. Don't get me wrong, but you were only up 2 touchdowns at the half. It took a second half defensive surge to get you where you wanted to go.
Right.
And they're capable of doing that, which makes them still probably the best team in the country. But Georgia turned the ball over 3 times. So there's that. I don't know that Georgia's that team. They're definitely not as good as they were last 2 years. So yeah, I feel like they're beatable. The question is, will someone do it, put together the game and actually beat them? I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'd like to see it happen because I like chaos. I do. I'm a big, I'm a big fan of chaos. And then Michigan beat Rutgers 31-7. Started off slow, it was 14-7 at the half. Rutgers is 3-1, so it's not like they're a pushover. But Michigan at home, you kind of expect more. And this is the first game back for Jim Harbaugh. But it was, I don't know. I don't feel like Michigan is that great. I feel like they're winning and they're doing what they need to do, but I just don't see the dominant 30-3 over East Carolina, 35-7 over UNLV, 31-6 over Bowling Green, 31-7 over Rutgers. Why can't you score more than 40 points against any of these teams? A good team would be blowing these teams out. But you know what I mean? What is going on? So
it definitely feels like they should be doing more.
Right.
And it's a little confusing why they're not.
Because you're going to play a team with a defense here, not anytime soon, by the way. And by the way, Penn State, which is at game number 10 on their schedule, is the first time they'll play a ranked team this year, Michigan, at Penn State. And
is that right?
Yeah. So literally their next games are Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue, and then they play Penn State. And then, of course, the last game of the season is Ohio State. So we'll know more about Michigan later, but they're playing a bunch of patsies because the rest of the conference is bad. And Michigan State, who normally is a contender, is bad, right? Going through coaching issues and legal issues. And anyway.
Yeah,
but,
all sorts of problems.
So there's only 3 teams in this conference. That's Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. And I think Michigan, honestly, I think Michigan's the odd man out. I think Penn State's better than Michigan. We'll know more in November, but I don't know. I don't know. It's just me looking at it from the outside. I guess I'm not a
I
expert.
I don't think you're wrong. I
Yeah.
think it's
And,
pretty clear that something's up.
and if you told me Penn State was going to win the Big Ten this year, I'd be okay with that too because I don't think Ohio State's all that great. I think they're good. That's a good football. I think Ohio State. Honestly, if I had to rate them, I would say Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, in that order. That's just me.
Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because Ohio
yeah,
State
I would say so.
has more playmakers. They may not play better, but they have more. This is kind of like the Pac-12, where you kind of put USC in front because they have more playmakers,
Right.
but they're not necessarily the best team. Yeah,
So
I don't know.
I mean, they all still have to play each other, and it'll all sort itself out.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem with that is you all it's easy to start going, well, this I think this team's better than that team. I think this team's better than that team. Well, Penn State's the one that scored the most points so far.
Right.
So offensively, Penn State's the best team. Ohio State's left the least amount of points so far. So Ohio State is defensively the best team, right?
Right.
Like, and Michigan's somewhere in between the two. We just don't know enough.
We just don't know.
But that's why the season is 13 weeks long.
I mean, it is what it is. So, the rankings for Week 5. Georgia's still on top, 55 votes, but there are some scattered votes. Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington got a first place vote.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would vote for Washington. USC fell 3 spots with a win. Notre Dame fell only 2 spots with a loss. I know they lost in the last second, but they lost at home to an Ohio State team that I don't think is that good. I would have dropped them even further. Alabama's another team that's kind of overrated, and LSU at 12-13 in that slot. I don't think they're great, but it's the SEC bias. They're going to get their due. They're literally rated ahead of 5 undefeated teams. Which, I mean, I'm sorry, at this point in the season, if you haven't won all your games, you shouldn't be in the top 10 because there's plenty of teams that are unbeaten.
Right.
Yeah, you want to put them ahead of Fresno State? Okay, I'm good with that. But if you want to put them ahead of Oklahoma,
Washington State,
right, or Washington State, I don't think that's okay. I think
Yeah.
that's not right. Even Duke or Miami, who have quality wins already, right?
all you're doing is telling those teams, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Washington State, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not
Right.
going to be. We're not going to give you more credit than we'll give them, even in losses.
Right. So there's a lot going on there in the rankings. It's gonna totally, yeah, it's gonna be all wonky come next week. Anyway, it doesn't really
I
matter.
think this weekend the Pac-12 has 3 big ranked games: Utah at Oregon State, USC at Colorado. That's not the one I'm looking for.
There's
I
your
thought we had another big one. No, I guess not.
there's your games this week. Total these are the top 25 and all of the Pac-12 teams. So you have Utah and Oregon State play tomorrow night, 6
Right.
o'clock on Fox Sports 1. That's going to be a great football game. I would watch that. I'm gonna tune in and watch that game.
I will too.
Yeah. USC at Colorado. I'm interested to watch that game. A 4-0 Kentucky team hosts Florida. That's gonna be an interesting game, right? Because if Kentucky wins, they're going to be ranked.
And with Florida being at 22, they should be unranked.
And if Florida loses, they're going to be 3-2, right? And they'll that's
They'll fall out probably.
That's crazy. Georgia playing at Auburn. Auburn's not terrible. I mean, that's a team that could give them some trouble.
Right.
Kansas at Texas, 2 unbeaten teams. LSU at Ole Miss. That's an interesting game. Notre Dame plays at Duke, right? That's an interesting football game. There's some good stuff.
That's where College Game Day is this weekend.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on this schedule.
Notre Dame gets 2 College Game Days in a row.
Yeah, well, this one's Duke getting the game.
I know, but they're featured.
Right.
Which means you have to hear College Game Day isn't just about the wear. It's about, from a television standpoint, like I have to listen to the Notre Dame stories and like the little all the stuff that they do and the voters that they bring out, and I have to listen to the same kind of stuff week in and week out. So yeah, it's just when you put one team on there so many times, it's like, ugh.
Let's talk about the NFL real quick.
Okay.
We're not going to go deep, but we'll talk a little bit. The Miami Dolphins scored 70 against your Broncos, and I'm sorry that happened, but
It'd be like that.
That's the big story. Denver quit, and
yes,
yeah, but I think that they're trying to quit. I mean, I kind of get that, but I don't know. It just seemed like everything Miami touched was a point, right? I mean, every time they touched the football,
Right.
it was something good. Miami turned the ball over on downs once. They had an end of the half drive, right?
Right.
And one punt. Oh, no, they had 2 downs. So there were 4 drives where they didn't score, but everything else was a touchdown. I mean, everything else
Yeah.
that they touched was freaking amazing. They looked better. They were sharper. They came right out the gate, and I mean, it was 35-13 at the half. They scored 35 more points in the second half. It was a complete win by the Dolphins. It was a complete meltdown, I guess, by the Broncos, but not a meltdown so much as it was a, are they tanking this game because we're 0-2. We started out this game competing, and then we decided, we can't really compete, so let's just screw it. Which you don't know anymore in the NBA and the NFL and any of these leagues. You just don't know if that team is giving up.
Right.
Because now at this point you're 0-3. What are the odds of you making the playoffs even? Slim. I mean, couple, 5% maybe. I don't know what it is, but it's very slim in that division. Especially, you're going to play a lot of good football teams. Does it say more about Miami or Denver this game?
I don't think it says as much about either team as it seems, right? Like, from an offensive standpoint, Denver is well above middle of the pack in offensive efficiency in the NFL, right? So we're like 14th or 13th. So there's not really a ton of issues with our offense, right? Defensively, giving up 70 points is brutal, right? Like that. So I'd say, if anything, it talks more to Miami's offense. Like but specifically to the offense. It's not talking about Miami as a massive whole, right? Defensively, they're still middle, bottom of the pack.
Sure.
Defensively, but to their offense, yeah, that's pretty darn impressive. But I mean, it re-emphasizes how, Denver's first offensive drive, rush for 2 yards, jet sweep for 3 yards, incomplete deep left, punt, followed by a touchdown. And then we go on this big extended drive and kick a field goal.
Right.
And it's like, okay, come on, just like, can we get something going? Like, it was never there. And then we had, in the second half, there was a big play where we were in scoring position. We were driving down the field. We were absolutely hauling, and Cortland Sutton fumbled the ball for the second time.
Right.
Which then turned into a Miami Dolphins touchdown. Miami Dolphins scored 2 touchdowns. 14 of these points came off of Cortland Sutton fumbles.
Right.
So, I mean, and then Russ had a pick that was tough to watch. I'd say it just emphasizes Miami Dolphins' offense is that good. But the Broncos all year have been struggling on defense.
Right.
I think this just kind of emphasized that. Sean Payton did come in and say he was going to flip the script, and he did. He gave us a better offense and a worse defense.
Right.
So, yeah, we've moved up remarkably on offense, and we moved down remarkably on defense. Broncos were also without 3 defensive starters. That's brutal, including Justin Simmons, who's your over-the-top guy,
right,
for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that was going on, but even then, like, you give up 70 points, even if you screw up a bunch, it's tough. Yeah. But Miami, I mean, even when the backups are in, Miami was a scoring machine.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a 67-yard run. One of the running backs had a 67-yard run, and but then at 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And you can talk about foot off the gas. The score is 56-13. And he throws a deep right 68-yard touchdown pass.
Right.
Their backup does. Like, that's good reps for the backup. Man, that's next time the Broncos play the Dolphins, if Mike White is still around, he's gonna get a high hit.
Oh yeah,
for that one, because there is no need to be slinging deep passes. I'm usually a fan of keeping your foot on the gas pedal, but at this point you're up 43 points.
Right.
Like, you're at 43 points with 9 minutes left. What are we doing here?
Yeah, for sure. So,
but they had a punt on the drive before that, so I guess they were feeling really down about their offensive output to that point or something.
Here's another stat for you. You ready? There's only 4 starting quarterbacks, right, in the NFL that started all 3 games.
Yeah. That
have not thrown an interception this year. Do you know who they are?
Well, one of them's Tua, right?
No.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers.
No, they started all 3 games. They started all 3 games. Yeah.
4 quarterbacks in the NFL this year who started all 3 games who haven't thrown picks.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
That's a really
Tough one,
really
isn't
good
it?
one because I know Patrick Mahomes has, I know
Right.
Russell Wilson has, I know Jimmy G has. Wait, has Jimmy G thrown a pick?
Yeah. Jimmy G
Yes,
has 6 interceptions.
really.
He leads
God
the league.
dang.
Yeah.
It's gonna be somebody can. It's gonna be somebody you don't expect, like Desmond Ritter or
Okay.
something like that. You'd be like, oh, weird.
Well,
Who are they?
one of them you'd expect. Justin Herbert.
Justin
Six
Herbert doesn't have a pick on the year.
6 touchdowns, no interceptions, 74% completion percentage. He leads the league in
Jeez.
completion percentage. Yeah. Has almost a
Mm,
thousand yards this year.
all right.
Brock Purdy. 4 touchdowns,
Ooh,
no interceptions.
I knew it was Brock Purdy.
C.J. Stroud. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. And then Joshua Dobbs, who has only 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. So there's your guys.
Josh Dobbs has been pretty efficient this year. I've been pretty impressed with him.
Yeah, not you mean 72% completion percentage. He's only thrown for 500 and something yards, but they're he's doing what they need him to do, which is manage
I think they're
games.
tanking
Well, they
anyways.
might be. They might be. Yeah. Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo leads the league in interceptions with 6. Sam Howell of Washington with 5. Stafford, Jones, Allen, Wilson, Fields all with 4. Um, so there's a lot being said there. To be 3 games in and not having thrown an interception is amazing. So anyway, I
It's a
just
good deal.
wanted to throw that out there. And the Chargers won their first game finally in a 1-score game, which was it's been frustrating. If you're a Chargers fan watching these games so far this year and watching them lose 1-score games, and they finally won one, which is thank God. Um, yeah, 28-24 at the Vikings. The Vikings are 0-3. Are the Vikings in trouble? I would say yes. I mean, but I don't know for sure.
It's hard to ever say with the Vikings.
Right, and that's the problem, right?
They are a confusing team.
They are a confusing team. And then you had this week, let's say also you had the Saints and the Packers. The Packers stole an 18-17 win, 18 fourth quarter points to steal an 18-17 win over the Saints in Green Bay. Pretty amazing because I thought that game was over for sure. We had Houston. Um, gosh, where is it? We had the Houston being a surprise in Jacksonville, 37-17. I mean, they dominated the Jaguars. I don't even understand that. What just happened? Because I thought Jacksonville was one of those teams, right? Was one
Yeah,
of those
Jacksonville's supposed to be a contender this year.
a cusp team, right? On the cusp of greatness, and they just got manhandled at home.
At home.
Yeah, that's you can't do that. And then how about the Dallas Cowboys? They go to Arizona and they lay a complete egg, 28-16 Cardinal win. The Cowboys look dominant through 2 games, but the Cardinals.
Oh, thank God.
I know, I know. I don't like Cowboys either, but
Just hearing the world, like, I don't understand how you don't have the social awareness to know that when your team loses, everyone goes,
right.
thank goodness.
Yeah, thank God.
Like everyone hates the Cowboys,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's true. The Rams managed to lose a game to the Bengals, 19-16. The Rams' offense looked terrible, or the Bengals' defense looked good. I don't know which one, but the Rams' offense looked terrible. I still think Joe Burrow is injured. He's not. He doesn't look like Joe Burrow. This does not look like a great football
That's
team.
all the reports I'm hearing is that he still has.
Yeah.
He's still dealing with his calf injury.
They were lucky to win this game. They got out early, right? They had 16-9. The Rams scored kind of late, but it was Matthew Stafford threw 2 interceptions. If they don't turn the ball over, it's a different game. But their offense could never seem to get going, so the Bengals defense won the game for them basically because 19 points shouldn't win you a football game, but it did. And that's been the case this year on a number of games, right? Just ask the frickin' Saints, right? Who won what 16-15, and now they lost 18-17, and the Patriots beat the Jets 15-10. And we heard Joe Namath say that they need to move on from Zach Wilson.
They do.
They do. He's not
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. They paid Aaron Rodgers so much damn money. I don't know if they got any money left. So there's that. But don't count out the Bills. I know they lost in Week 1 to the Jets. That was a big win. It was an emotionally charged game 1. But the Bills are averaging. They give up about 12 points a game. Their defense is really good. So
Yeah.
and they scored 37 against the Commanders' defense that I think is pretty good. I don't know. There's more to be said there. There was other games. The Colts beat the Ravens 22-19. I thought the Ravens were a lock to win that football game. They didn't look like they could do anything, but it took overtime
Right.
and a safety to get the Ravens. Anytime your team relies on a safety to win a game. I don't know. The Steelers beat the Raiders 23-18. There's that. The Eagles looked pretty easy with their win over the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers didn't look great. I thought that was going to be closer than that. I don't know. Seahawks beat the Panthers 37-27. They should. The Seahawks should be better than the Panthers. Panthers are 0-3. But it wasn't never really a dominant win. It was a good win. They were in control-ish, but it was 13-12. Panthers at the half. But second half, anyway, I don't know. Kenny Walker, 18
Seahawks
carries.
are letting people hang around.
Yeah, Kenny Walker, 18 carries, 97 yards, 2 touchdowns. Okay.
He's legit.
He's legit. He is. Anyway, there's that. So the NFL was what the NFL was, and I still don't know anything about any of these NFL teams. I'm just saying that. I normally by this point I have figured it out. I will tell you this. Here's what I know. The Niners are good.
Niners are good.
The Niners are really good. The Browns defense is good. The Lions can beat you offensively if you let them, but they're not great.
If you let them.
But they're not great. The Dolphins' offense seems great.
Seems great.
Seems great. Let's just say that. Seems great. The Bills still seem like a very complete football team. But the loss in week 1 notwithstanding, they're still very good. The Ravens, I thought were good. I don't know how good they are. 19 points isn't going to get it done in any league. The Seahawks are now 2-1. I don't know that they're good enough to be a 2-1 team. The Bears are terrible. That's what I know. The Bears are terrible.
You know the Bears are terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the Raiders are probably not very good.
Well, so like I feel like there's like one team, maybe 2 teams that I'd even go 3 actually, who are terrible, and to me that's the Giants, the Jets, and the Bears.
Yeah.
You just don't feel like those are good teams. There's that next tier above them, which is where the Broncos get slotted.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel good about anything that's going on. Even the Vikings at 0-3 are still in that slotting. Like the Texans are kind of in there. The Panthers,
Vikings.
yeah. There's a lot of teams in that next tier who you're like, I think they're not awful, but I don't feel very good about what's going to happen this year.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would agree with a lot of what you said. I think the Chiefs have kind of figured it out. They turned a little corner. I mean, yeah, it was against the Bears, but they're 2-1, and their one loss was, a real tight one on opening weekend to the Lions. So, you can kind of wash away with that. The Titans are a team that I'm just confused by.
Yeah.
They go out one week and they play all world. They go out the next week and they can't do anything.
Yeah. I don't know.
I have no clue.
Your final from Green Bay tonight, Thursday night game. The Lions 34, the Packers 20. So the Lions are 3-1 and 2-0 on the road, by the way.
On the road, yeah.
Yeah. David Montgomery had 32 carries, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns for Detroit. After being hurt last week, I mean, I thought he was hurt, but he's not hurt.
Not hurt.
Yeah, he's not hurt. Big games this week. Raiders at the Chargers. Both teams 1 and 2. That's at 1 o'clock on CBS if you get it. The Bills Dolphins is at 10 a.m. on CBS.
That's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good football game. The Broncos and the Bears. 0-3 teams.
People are calling it like I sent Cassie a meme of 2 clowns fighting each other. It's a preview of the Broncos. But I still think that game could be entertaining.
I think there's a bunch of those.
Because they're right in that neighborhood together.
The Ravens Browns. Also 10 o'clock on CBS. The Bengals Titans.
Yeah,
right?
I said to begin this season that I thought the Ravens were overrated.
Yeah,
and I thought the Browns were going to be better than they seemed. And here they are sitting with the same record with a chance to prove me one way or the other.
The Rams and the Colts are playing at Indianapolis, right?
I wonder if what's his name's going to play the quarterback, Richardson.
I don't know. Buccaneers Saints are both 2-1. They play also. The Vikings and the Panthers. Somebody's got to win a football game. They're both 0-3. Well, I guess they don't. They could tie. Patriots at the Cowboys. Which Cowboys team will show up, right? The Chiefs play at the Jets, right? Can Zach Wilson do anything? Seahawks play at the Giants. The Giants we think are terrible, but I mean the Seahawks.
They always kind of have a little bit of a defense, but
Seahawks have this way of blowing games too. So who knows?
And it's on the road too, and it's on turf, which we all know all athletes hate.
Yeah, whatever. They've been doing it forever. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's all that. It'll be interesting to watch. I still don't know anything. I think we need 5 weeks this year before I figure out who the good teams are.
Originally we said 3, but I think it's 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I think week 5 is going to tell us a lot more. You're going to have some teams playing each other in week 5, and the matchups will be like Chiefs Vikings, right, at Minnesota. Right, the Cowboys and the Niners play week 5. There's some good games in there too. Bills Jaguars. Don't know. So, yeah, I thought the Jaguars were better than losing to the Texans, but maybe they're not. I don't know.
Learn something new every day.
We're learning more as we go. There's a lot to be said, but a lot more football to go. Let's talk about the trivia question real quick again. Steven Stone trivia question was, who holds the record in the NFL for most points in a half? We know that the Dolphins scored 70, and we know the Bears scored 73 back in 1940 in a win as the NFL record. But what's the record for points in a half? So that's a good question for you. Do you know the answer? Who holds?
I'm going to go with Minnesota last year in their comeback.
That is not the answer, but
I
but a
guess
good
39.
Yeah,
Like
right.
They had
The New England Patriots on October 18th, 2009, scored 45 points in the first half against Tennessee, en route to a 59-0 win.
So they're tied with Miami because Miami had 45 in the first half
They
here.
had 35. 35 and 35. Miami had 35 and 35. Two halves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I went to the question.
I must have misread the ESPN thing. Darn.
35 and 35 to get 70. It was an even balance game, but the score of this game was 35-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Yikes.
There's a Titans loss for you. So anyway,
that's a tough one.
Right. It was a snowy game in New England. Snow. And they scored 45 points. They scored 59 points in the game. But it was Tom Brady. And it was the Patriots
it was
when they
Tommy Legend in his prime.
Yeah, being a machine, right? So there was that. Anyway, I like snow football, by the way. I do. I think that's the best kind of football. I think it's more, it's an equalizer. You get to know who the better players are because they prepared for it. It also has crazy turnovers, fumbles, and drops and things that you wouldn't normally expect. Hey, a snowflake got in my eye. That doesn't happen in Dallas.
Right.
So I think that all teams should have to play outdoors and play with the weather. But that's just me talking.
Well, you'll love this then because the Broncos are so bad, all of their ticket prices are dropping.
All right.
So I'm looking ahead towards the end of the year to
Yeah.
go into a game.
Yeah.
I want to go to a snow game, and on 12/31 they play the Chargers.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I'm
December,
like,
New Year's
snow
Eve.
pour down. Yeah.
Woo.
They play the Patriots the week before on Christmas Eve.
Oh, that'd be good.
That would be a good one too. That's a night game.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. A night snow game. That's gonna be perfect. I know,
Actually,
right?
Honestly, that one might be more fun to go watch.
I like the sound of that. That's all we have for tonight. Just want to let everybody know we'll be back next week. Do you have a minute? Do you have something you want to talk about?
Oh, I do not. No,
Okay.
nothing
We'll
off the top of my head.
We'll do it next week.
Yep.
Want to thank everybody for listening, but hang on a second. I got to get music. Right? We want to thank ESPN. We want to thank CBS Sports, Fox Sports, NBC Sports. I also want to thank our sponsors, Boss Kitty and Steven Stone Wine Estates. This has been a Brain Rock production, division of Lonely Tree Media LLC. I want to thank everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.